What you are about to hear will blow your mind and give you six-pack abs without even exercising.
Pull up a bar stool and relax.
Hey, who wants to have some fun?
You've made it to Happy Hour with John Gaskins.
Oh, no. Not again.
Get ready for entertaining local and regional sports talk that will change your life. Or not.
And by the way, when you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
Here's your host, John Gaskins.
Here's Johnny. Hello! Ah!
I'm back, baby! I'm back!
High fly ball, right center field, in the alley, to the track, to the wall. That ball's off the wall. The Twins are going to win the game. Caratini scores. Lee scores. The Twins rally and walk off the Royals. 3-2 the final. Twins win. Twins win. And the Twins win it.
Hey, happy hour indeed. On a day when this show is going full blast on football with Jackrabbits, Coyotes, Minnesota Vikings camps blasting off this week. We start with a bang. Minnesota's Major League Baseball team, the baseball team, we're still playing it. They've caught fire. They're a half game out of the last playoff spot, 2 games back of the division lead with 5 games to play before Monday's trade deadline. Magic against the rotten Royals at Target Field last night. Royce Lewis, a reborn hero. Taj Bradley still pitching superb. It's a monster Twins win, and a happy way to start Happy Hour on a Wednesday. We're at Gibbs Sports Lounge on the east side of Sioux Falls. Incredible food, great service today. Dirty Dan on the bartending, and they'll mix you any kind of drink you want with all these TVs. Get ready for the NFL season. This will be an awesome place on the east side to go watch all the games, Saturday and Sunday, all season long. A monster Twins win last night, a monster win at the voting booth in South Dakota. The governor, Larry Roden, trampling Toby Doden, the outsider. And a little bit later, we're going to head over to the Orion Pub in downtown Sioux Falls, and our Sioux Falls Live editor-in-chief, Patrick Lally, will break down how that happened. 70-30, wow. And later on here, about 15 minutes from now, the voice of USF football, Tom Frederick, will join us. 3 decades on the mic. We will talk a little coup football. I'm more interested in his world travels because I want to live vicariously through a guy who is retired and has all the time in the world to just travel. So kind of a year later catch up on Tom Frederick's life after we had such what I felt was a popular, well-liked segment with him about life last year on Happy Hour. But we're going to start today and most days up until August 29th with football. It is week 1 of football camp for the Jacks, the Yotes, and the Vikings. We're going to start a new feature here on Happy Hour. Today is July 29th. First game for the Jacks and Yotes, August 29th. For what it's worth, the Vikings will have their cut day for the final roster the day after that. So every show from now until then, to lead most shows, it's 29 for 29. July 29th, August 29th. You know the ESPN 30 for 30. This is 29 for 29. We'll just lead off a show with topics and sound bites from football camps. And so since this is our debut of 29 for 29, we have to go to the sexiest spot on the field, the fun stuff, the quarterback, the most important position. And let's start with the Jackrabbits. They open their camp tomorrow, and they know exactly what they have. Of the 3 teams we'll talk about, this is the only team that knows their quarterback and feels great about it, and that is Chase Mason, the super freak, future NFL draft pick, projected as an early or mid-round pick. He's 6'4", he's 250. I believe him. And Dan Jackson and Curtis Riggs that he did get 7-figure offers from Big Ten and 8 SEC schools, but he's coming back to SDSU, and he started just 9 games, played in just 9 games, 9 times. Ed Rooney, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 9 times. That's why some people don't quite believe or buy the hype. But if you don't get the hype, you have not been watching. You're watching highlights right now on Sioux Falls Live thanks to video producer Cordell. But I'll go through the stats while you watch the colors fly through the air. The Jacks were 8-1 with him as starter last year, only lost to eventual semifinalist Montana in the playoffs. 8-1 when he started, 1-4 when he was hurt. He threw for 267 yards a game, completed 2/3 of his passes, 18 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. The dual threat, 14 carries a game for almost 100 yards per game, 14 touchdowns on the ground, home run hitter. His average game was a total of 336 yards and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 9 yards per pass, 6 yards per rush. If he would have played all 15 games at this clip, he would have had 4,700 total yards, 3,700 through the air, and almost 1,300 on the ground. So yeah, he's good. And he's going to be even better this year. For one, he's a year older, he's a year stronger, he's a year more mature. For two, his best receiver, Lofton Ogroski, they were without his services for Chase's last 2 or 3 starts before he got hurt. He's back. It's a loaded wide receiving crew. The offensive line is deeper and more experienced than last year. And I expect an all-out aerial assault from the Jackrabbits this season. A lot of bigger, more explosive wow plays from already a wow athlete. Some people feel like he's a little unproven because it's only been 9 times that he has started a college football game. But here's Dan Jackson on Chase Mason's development, including his recovery from that foot injury this offseason.
He's the biggest he's ever been, so he weighs the most he's ever weighed with the least amount of body fat, and he just ran almost 22 miles an hour yesterday, which would be one of the faster players in the country, not just quarterbacks. So physically he's in a good spot. He's very healthy. Everybody asks about that. He feels as good as he has. His core strength's good because he plays golf every day when he's done with his workouts. But I would say as a leader, he is very confident in himself. He has a full understanding of the system, so he's starting to teach the offense to other people, whereas last year he was learning a new offense and by the end was teaching it, but now he's got the offense humming and he could probably run the practice without coaches out there.
Wow. Dan Jackson, media days with us here on Happy Hour. What I expect is more of an air attack than a ground attack by the Jacks. They say they want to be big, physical, dominant up front. Every team does. 605 Hogs should be better. They want to establish the run. But when you have the weapons that they have at receiver for Chase Mason to throw to, like Ogroski, Grayton Gannon is wildly experienced. Jack Smith started to show flashes late last year. Landon Delaney was the fastest football player in the state in his 3 years at Brandon Valley, and I'm going to guess he's going to play. And there's 3 or 4 more. They're loaded there. Running back, not as loaded, not as experienced. They are not quite sure what they have. Eric Eidsness, when he had Zach Zenner, that was a running team. He's the best rusher in SDSU history. But now you look at the passing-centric teams SDSU had when there was Jared Christian, Dallas Goddard, Jake Winicky, Cade Johnson. Yeah, I think we're going to get a little bit more of that out of Eazy-E and Chase Mason in year number 2. Some of this is stuff Jackrabbit fans already know, but I'm just expecting a big year out of Chase. At USD, they have no idea who their quarterback is going to be, and if they do, they're doing an awfully good job of fooling us. But it's going to be somebody brand new. After 3 years of Aidan Bouman, who turned himself into the GOAT and set plenty of career records in Vermilion, it's now a 3-horse race of unknowns. If you've been watching and listening to this show, you've gotten to know them a little bit when we talked to the new head coach, Matt Vitzthum, in the spring, and again at Media Day. You have Nevin Cremascoli, who is a senior and has the most experience in this program. Jackson Proctor, a senior transfer from Dartmouth and then Northern Illinois, where he didn't play last year. And Austin Majewski, a guy who his last name is hard to pronounce. Just get on Majewski. But who Matt Vitzthum said back in the spring, you're going to want to know that name. You're going to be hearing that name. Is it going to be now? Is it going to be game 1? We don't know. But here's the latest. This is Matt Vitzthum with us here on Happy Hour at Media Day, breaking down the talents of these 3 guys.
Yeah, I think Nevin Cremascoli, I know what we know what we're going to get with Nevin, right? And there's a certain level of comfort with that, right? And there's that consistency factor of who he is, right? Austin Majewski, the freshman, would be a redshirt freshman next year. he's got that wow factor. You know what I mean? He's got a big arm. He's going to make some big plays, just kind of honing in on, limiting the damage of a freshman, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be key for him in kind of this race. And then Jackson Proctor, for him, his legs, right? His ability to run the football and our ability as a staff to adapt to that type of quarterback. That's kind of the three things I would say kind of coming out of that we think we know about those three guys right now.
Yeah. So you have got 3 different skill sets or 3 different assets. When you parse together those words, and he said very similar things back in the spring, Cremasoli feels like he has the clubhouse lead because he's been at USD and in the system the longest, and he's the least likely to screw things up because he's already had the learning curve. The comfort, the word comfort was used. He has an athletic build, which means he can take more hits and maybe run more. And he's got a calming presence. Okay, those are very good things you want to have when you're choosing between 3 quarterbacks who have not really been starters at USD. And for a new head coach, the word comfort means a lot, I think, here for a new coach who was the quarterback's coach and has worked a lot with Cremasoli. Although, when you bring in a transfer from the FCS like Jackson Proctor, you do wonder why you would bring somebody like that in if the guy's not going to play. Kind of like Kyler Murray coming to the Vikings, and we'll get to that. And he brings the best quarterback run element to this equation, and which is what you love to have when things break down. 8-2, by the way. For what it's worth in the Ivy League, I don't know if it'll translate to the Valley, but the Valley's a harder league. It's nice to have a guy who knows how to win games, and he was 8-2, completing 68% of his passes, 13 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. Jackson Proctor 2 years ago at Dartmouth. So he has the most experience playing actual FCS football. So you could give him the nod at that. And it sounds like your most talented guy, the one with the most upside, is Austin Majewski. And he's a redshirt freshman, not a true freshman. And he was at USD last year. And when you hear about the elite arm talent, also his ability at times to run if he has to, it's not if, but when he's going to be USD's starting quarterback. But we can't tell you if that's going to be right away. It feels like it's going to be one of the 2 more experienced guys. One guy has more experience playing in the FCS. The other guy has more experience in the system and sounds like he's less likely to screw up. And when asked what it's going to come down to for Matt Vitzthum determining the winner of this 3-horse race, he has simply said he wants a guy who's going to be the most consistent, who's going to make the best decisions, who's going to put us in the best position when it's 3rd down, critical time in a game. Quarterback's not going to be running 20 times a game, but being able to run is an asset. They all have more of this than Aidan Bouman, not that the bar was high. And they plan on deciding this within the first 2 weeks of camp starting today. Matt Zimmer was there in Vermilion. He'll be in Brookings tomorrow for the Jackrabbits, and he'll be on happy hour tomorrow with his day 1 observations. The Vikings had their day 1 yesterday, and sticking with quarterback, which is the A topic, Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy. Anytime he's been asked about it lately, Kevin O'Connell has given us a whole bunch of word salad. So here's the latest salad on a silver platter, 30 seconds from yesterday.
Both Kyler and J.J. will take reps with the first team. They'll also take reps with the second group, and I think that gives different layers to the evaluation as well. We want an elevator at the quarterback position, and in many ways doing that in this system is kind of a do-your-job mentality, which is, running the show, throwing completions, and just showing the ability to execute our offense with comfort. And that offense is an evolving thing, and we're excited about what this year's offense could look like.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. This is Kyler Murray's job to lose. I've been saying this since the day Kyler Murray got signed. It's obvious. He has far more upside. He's far more proven in the NFL. You don't go out and get him unless you plan for him to play. A veteran, starting, proven quarterback in the NFL who's played for lousy teams, mostly bottom 10 offensive lines, mostly lousy defenses, rookie head coaches, a number 1 draft pick who's been lost and mostly wasted just with a bad organization. Sounds a lot like Sam Darnold with the Jets and the Panthers before he got to Minnesota. Will this be a 14-win Sam Darnold 2024 year for Kyler Murray? I don't know. But he's probably going to be the guy, and you're probably going to pick him over the guy that was rated 4th worst out of the starters by Pro Football Focus among quarterbacks last year in J.J. McCarthy. But we're just rehashing old points. Nothing has really changed. What we have new to the equation is a guy who actually played with J.J. McCarthy last year, caught passes from him for a bit. Remember, Aidan Thielen joined the Vikings toward the very end. And look, this guy is clearly trying to carve himself a career in broadcasting. And you know what? Some actual freaking candor in saying something, that'll help. Here's Aidan Thielen on Murray versus McCarthy.
I think it's Kyler Murray's job to lose. I do. I think it's Kyler Murray's job right now. But if JJ comes and shows up and shows exactly what he wasn't doing well last year, and he shows, first of all, when you see JJ in person and you're around him, you want to be around him. He's a great leader. He's fun to be around. He's just like this guy that everyone just loves. So at the end of the day, they drafted him in the first round. They want him to have success. So if he comes and shows it, he could win that job. But right now, it's Kyler's job.
Aidan Thielen says what we're all thinking. And he probably knows a bit more than the rest of us. It would actually help the Vikings if J.J. McCarthy won the race. He's their more long-term prospect. They want to be proven right with that draft pick, but it was picked by a different GM than the guy who is here now. And you have a head coach who's in his 5th year, whose job seems secure, but Jerry Glanville always said, the NFL stands for not for long. And one bad season, no playoffs, no playoff wins. If it doesn't look good, Kevin O'Connell might be out of a job. And yet, the Vikings are good enough with a Brian Flores-led defense, with a repaired offensive line, supposedly a better running game, and the best receiver in the game. You can't keep the training wheels on J.J. McCarthy. It's Kyler Murray's job to lose.